Well, May is Asian American Pacific Islander Month, and Walt Grayson has a story about a group of people in that category who made a significant contribution to the Delta.
Now, this is a very complicated story, Walt. Goes way back.
Oh, yeah, and it would take a whole lot longer to tell the story than we have right now to tell it, but we'll start with this. Going back in time, after the Civil War and the enslaved people had been freed, planters were looking for labor. Emily Jones is the curator of the Mississippi Chinese Heritage Museum at Delta State University in Cleveland, and she picks up the story at that point.
The Chinese came to the Delta to kind of fill the niche of freed labor. They worked in the fields. They were kind of brought over under the guise that they would be wealthy from doing this, be able to send money back to their families. And they realized really quickly, though, that that was not what was going to happen. They moved from the fields into running grocery stores, small stores, and they served a black clientele and provided a buffer as well for the white populations in the Delta.
Well, a couple of things. One, the Chinese groceries extended credit needed by sharecroppers to live all year long. I mean, they only made one payday a year. And two, the Chinese stores were a place where blacks and whites came together to buy things, making the Delta Chinese stores one of, if not the first place, where the races mingled without even thinking about it. And another part of the story is it was a cumbersome process getting families over from China prior to World War II. The father could come and bring his sons as he was able, but under the Exclusion Act, it was very hard to get the wives into America. My friend from Greenville, who I went from kindergarten to high school with, Raymond Seed, says that's what happened in his family. By the way, Raymond moved to Hawaii after he retired, hence the waves in the background.
My grandfather brought my father over. He had some friends and relatives that lived in Greenville, Mississippi. So he took my father back there, and that's where my father pretty much grew up. My father was in World War II. He's a veteran. Went back to get my mother, and if you're a veteran, it was pretty easy to bring a wife back from China, so he brought her back to Greenville, Mississippi.
Raymond's family operated and lived at Frank's store on North Shelby Street in Greenville. Chinese stores were everywhere in Greenville and all over the Delta, for that matter, sometimes 2 or 3 on the same block. But after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, when people of all races could shop anywhere, the small community stores started giving way to the supermarkets. Plus, the next generation, like Raymond, grew up and had professional careers, and many left Mississippi, leaving the stores behind either empty or demolished. But the Chinese in the Delta were just the right people at just the right time to be the buffer in a black and white world. Mississippi would not be what we know it today without the contribution of the Chinese in the Delta. There's a documentary, by the way, called Far East Deep South that chronicles the San Francisco family discovering their roots in the Mississippi Delta. Now, Mississippi Public Broadcasting is going to air the documentary on June 15th, but if you want to see it now, it's online until the end of May. You can watch it for free, and you can find that link when you go to our webpage, WJTV.com, then click on the Living Local tab, and then click on Focus on Mississippi. Find this story, and we'll have the link right there.